Hey everyone, welcome back to All Things Private Practice. I am joined today by Dr. Tina Vitolo. She is a licensed clinical social worker, published researcher, and the founder of the Black Sheep Therapist Movement, an online community of over 5,000 therapists redefining what ethical and innovative clinical practice looks like. Holding a doctorate in social work from Florida Atlantic University and a master's from NYU, Dr. Vitolo is recognized as one of the only thought leaders in the mental health field developing tangible, legally grounded frameworks for integrating spiritual, energy-based, and unconventional practices into therapy. Through her Black Sheep Therapist Academy, Tina provides non-traditional, CEU-approved trainings that translate complementary and alternative interventions into clinically compliant, theory-aligned practice. As the creator of the Innovative Practitioner Accelerator, she helps therapists navigate the gray areas of law, regulation, and ethics with confidence and clarity, transforming fear and confusion into empowerment and informed innovation. Surprised I hardly didn't jumble over all the bios that I read on here. So welcome to the show. I know we are going to be talking about integrating energy practices into your clinical practice. And you wanted to kind of talk about like the ins and outs, the gray areas, the misconceptions, all things in between.
Yeah. So I have a pure passion of integrating spiritual energy-based practices into clinical practice because it was something that I very much needed when I was early on in my 20s going through my anxiety spiral. Conventional mental health didn't work for me, so I kind of found myself in this space of fragmenting my care all over the place, seeing spiritual practitioners and therapists as well. I really needed both. And I realized there was this huge divide between the two, and both sides like really hate and judge each other, which is also really fun when you're trying to get integrative care and heal yourself. So that's kind of what drew me into trying to figure out a way to make this tangible. My whole career, because I've been a social worker since 2006, I've literally been told these two cannot coexist, and this never made sense to me. I was like, why? If I need it, why can it not exist? You
You ever
know?
figure out the answer for that, like the why?
Oh yeah. The why is because people are scared of things they can't measure tangibly.
Yeah, for sure.
Can't shove it in a box, so it's bullshit.
Yeah.
First on here?
Yeah.
Sorry, I probably should have asked.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
Yep.
Okay.
Encouraged. Yeah, it is bullshit. Um, yeah, I think a lot of people will say you can't do this, or they will say the favorite phrase of Facebook groups all over the place is that it's unethical or
Mhm.
that you are, participating in doing harm. What would you say to that stuff?
Oh, what would I say? I have a lot of things to say. First I would say is where'd you read that?
Yep.
Because I've read everything. I'm actually doing a nationwide research study, pulling the actual black and white language from the state laws, statutes, and ethical codes to see like where does
Nice.
it say that you can't be innovative in your approaches? Where does it say that you can't integrate these practices? And in fact, if you want to amuse yourself, open up your state board, read how they define whether it's social work, marriage, family therapy, whatever. Now, y'all are all smart, professional. Well, we won't get there, right? I'm not going to go there. All smart people, right? And you all have reading comprehension skills. You are going to read this and go, "What the hell does that mean?"
Yeah.
Uh, because it's the most drawn out, run on sentence of nothing I've ever read in my life. So there really is nothing in our state laws or even in our code of ethics that say that we have to use things like empirically supported treatment modalities or evidence-based practice frameworks, which are two different things. I don't know if we'll have time to get into that. That says that we can't integrate these modalities within psychotherapy to enhance and accelerate the process of healing.
Right. Yep. Yeah. I think if you go to read the code of ethics, your head's gonna start spinning because it is just so there's so much there that is unnecessary. And I think it's done intentionally.
Mhm.
And also when we're talking about like evidence-based practice, evidence-based for who and who did the research? Did you even look into that? Typically, when we're talking about evidence-based practice in this field, we're talking about things that were done and supported for the majority of the middle class and privileged white populations of people that exist in this country without
Yeah.
taking culture into consideration. So when
Mhm.
people start saying like, well, I use tarot in therapy. I use alternative healing in therapy. You all of a sudden get this stop sign of like, whoa, this isn't evidence based. You're supposed to be using CBT.
Yeah. Well, I think it might be good for me to distinguish the difference between these two because I feel like these are used interchangeably and they're so not the same. So empirically supported treatment modalities, those are going to be your acronymed, your vigorously studied, manualized approaches, right? So your EMDR, CBT, DBT, like all the things, right? Reducing symptom presentation of this, there's clinical significance for it for this population, very small pool of individuals. It's really not applicable to a diverse community. Evidence-based practice, it's a framework. It's saying that we should be looking for the best available research. That research does not have to be, gold standard RCTs. There are so many other research frameworks that fall underneath that. Case studies, qualitative research, all the things. And there is actual research on tarot cards. I have it, so I know about it. That's just one piece of it. The other piece is, does the clinician have clinical competence in what it is that they're bringing in? Are they trained? Like, not as if they're using it for ha-ha fun, but have they actually gotten some type of formalized training on how to use this with people? And the third is, does it align with your client's preferences and values? If you're ticking all three of those boxes, which I actually ride for, I have to say, then it's no problem to integrate it into practice. And in fact, almost all of these more non-traditional spiritual energy-based practices can absolutely fall within that framework because there's research to support it. There's trainings for therapists. And guess what? You can always just ask your clients if this works for them when you're being transparent about the practice.
Absolutely. Well said. Very important distinction. Now, I can think of so many instances where I've seen in these therapist Facebook groups, people just pile on and like attack people who are saying things like, tarot just keeps coming to mind because I've seen the real examples of people like literally saying, I'm going to report you to your licensing board for doing this with your clients. You are doing harm. You are trying to like push people into your way of thinking. And I'm like, y'all, you don't even understand what the offenses are that could be reportable in general. Like, this is ridiculous. So I see that a lot. And it's unfortunate because I think it makes a lot of therapists feel really shameful about saying these are things that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah. I would say shame doesn't create change. So, I've definitely been the recipient of that, especially when I'm just trying to have conversations and give insight. It's so sad because what ends up happening is if I write something in just kind of not defense, but just, supporting someone who has a question, like they DM me on the side, like they're scared to like have these conversations because some of y'all therapists, you mean as hell. Like, I don't know who hurt you and I'm sorry. And I truly hope you figure that out. But the way you publicly like hang people on social media just shows your wounds so bad. Like, that says more to me than anything you're actually writing. That's number one.
Yeah.
But I think people just take this and misinterpret it immediately without being curious. Now, therapists, before you start defending yourself to somebody, see if they're even willing to hear you. Because if they're not, fuck it. Like, but if they are, have a conversation about it. Because we're not saying, hey, come in and have a tarot reading instead of therapy. I don't know what's happening here.
Sure.
We're saying, hey, we're integrating the use of tarot cards within psychotherapy. And this is how we're doing it. Now, when I work with therapists, we write all this out in their informed consent. What is tarot? How do I bring it into therapy? Under what theoretical lens am I actually bringing it in? What are the potential risks of bringing in tarot cards? Now, I use oracle cards, which is a little bit different than tarot cards, but there are some risks to this. But when I bring it into my practice, I'm using it for symbolism. I'm using it for reframes. I'm using it to bring unconscious material into the room. I'm using it from a psychodynamic lens. I'm using it from a transpersonal psychology lens, and I'm writing it out. So you can't tell me it doesn't have a space in therapy. So it's always from that lens, always. Now, even though I have in my paperwork that this is not a predictive reading, this is not fortune telling, at no point should you lose your personal agency and think that I'm giving you this reading and you must take this as truth. But clients can think whatever they want in session. They do it all the time. You might say it's one thing and then they're going home and saying something else. So, if my client leaves and goes, oh, my therapist gave me a oracle card reading in session to maybe their friend who's like a Karen therapist, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's so unethical. I'm reporting her to the board." Bitch, do it. Because guess
Yep.
what? My informed consent's got me laid out that I know exactly why I'm bringing it into session. And that's
Yeah.
why it's so important to just make sure you know why you're bringing it in. It's still coming from a clinical lens, and we're not offering two different services. We're still saying funneled under that psychotherapy lens when we're bringing it in.
Yeah. That's a really well laid out explanation, because I think that having that really thorough informed consent for everything you're doing in session is super important, and not to just use like one generic form that you maybe found on Simple Practice. Like, y'all really need to be customizing your informed consents and actually going over the stuff that's inside of it. And I think, as someone on the other side of it, a lot of the time, so many of us just check off or sign our informed consents, our professional disclosures, even when we're the client. And, we're not exactly paying attention to what's inside of that information a lot of the time.
No, I agree with you. I've changed my mindset about what an informed consent should be like in therapy, and the way I've been reframing it, it's your first intervention with your client.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'm noticing is that the one thing that informed consents lack the most is discussions about treatments, modalities, and interventions, which is actually what gets therapists kind of in trouble the most.
Yep.
It's always about like, there's a little paragraph on like, psychotherapy might be triggering and might get worse before you get better. Everyone's got that one, right? But then like that's it.
Yep.
And fees, cancellation policies, litigation costs, recording whatever, all that's in there. But then like, what about the actual practice itself? So like when I work with therapists, there's a whole separate appendix on this. Like all we're doing is talking about every single modality you're bringing in, even your ESTs. You're bringing in EMDR, you're bringing in CBT, all these. Guess what? There's risks to those too, and we'll identify each one. You're enhancing those ESTs. Like it's like CBT, human design with CBT, beautiful mix. Oracle cards with CBT, beautiful mix. Like if you're enhancing those with, more non-traditional modalities, write it up. Have your client sign off on it so that you are clear and staying in your lane, and you're not getting to get misunderstood as doing like two separate things in case you do get called out, so that you can have the freedom to practice however you want. And
Yeah.
the part that gets me is that, there's this myth, right? That if you want to integrate these practices, you have to leave the mental health field and jump to coaching. I'm going to challenge that right now because and I'm going to do this for a personal reason. I needed a therapist who did both. I would have loved if there was a therapist that had been marketing themselves in the world where I could have went online and been like, they do both. I would have signed up quicker than you could have imagined. Like so quick. So now everyone's jumping to coaching. What happens to the people, the population that needs a therapist that can do both? Because there is something so beautiful about that mix. I have had past life regressions with people who are not therapists. And then after, I've had that past life regression, I've been like, what do I do with like, I just found out this whole thing about my life. Like I need somewhere to process this. And I went to my conventional therapist and they were like, I don't even think that's real.
Right.
I'm like, like there's such a beautiful space for therapists to be just so much more innovative about the way that they practice and honestly accelerate healing for people by integrating these two.
That is so beautifully said. I think that is, it almost reminds me, it's not the same situation, but here in North Carolina and elsewhere, there's this still in 2025, the separation of thought of addiction therapy versus mental health therapy, and how they can't be defined, as if your struggles with addiction don't impact your mental health or vice versa. Or if, I would always sit in those trainings and just think to myself, like, this is so archaic to believe that this is separate. Like we are talking about the holistic viewpoint of humanity. We're not just talking about like these fragments and these segments of like, well, when you're struggling with using alcohol, you see this person, but when you're struggling with depression, you're seeing this person. But then I thought, what if you're using alcohol because you're depressed? Who do you see? Like, and so
you got people.
and I think the integration of just the whole self and acknowledgement of like, there are so many ways to heal, and there are so many ways to also hold the space of both ands. And nuance is supposed to be our specialty, but I think we so often really see things from a black and white perspective in this profession.
Yeah, and it's not helping anyone. The way I look at it is if conventional mental health was working, I think the state of our existence right now would look a lot different.
Yeah.
Obviously, it don't work. Like, you guys were all pushing ESTs down everyone's throat. Cool. Everyone was following that biomedical model. Here we go. We've been swallowing it up for 100 years. Um, is the mental health better in the world?
I would hope that no one listening is like emphatically yes. It is
I
not.
mean, it don't look good to me. Like, so what's the problem if we're shifting things a little bit? But there's like this stronghold grip of like, no, 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 no. Like I get attacked on social media all the time. Like
Yeah.
you're a joke. The profession should fear you. Well, like, ooh, like, what am I doing? Like, oh my God, like my crystals are coming out. Like, and it's gonna, like I'm a joke. Like,
Yeah. Like an actual witch hunt in a way is what it feels like, you know?
well, I mean, I feel like collectively, I like, I'm definitely your woo woo girl, right? So I always joke sometimes that I feel like were we all burned at the stake together? Like me and my little IPA posse that have joined. I'm like, everyone is so scared, right? We're so scared of the big bad board. We're so scared, and I was in it. I was so drinking that Kool-Aid for so long, but then I started asking some questions, and I realized that this board in my mind, I swear to you, I thought it was like, like in England where they wear the wigs and it's like the marble. Like I don't know. I swear I thought the board was like these people, and they're not.
They are not.
They are not smart
Nope.
people who can answer a question.
Nope.
They're not even therapists. Majority of them. Believe me, I have so many receipts from conversations with people on the board, and they won't answer a question for you. I swear to you, I have written hundreds of emails and I bank them and I have them stashed for the day I need. I really, really do, because everyone's like, oh, it's unethical. Is it? So I email the board. I ask, is this considered an unethical thing? I can't clarify what that means. I can't interpret what that statute means. Like they never want to answer me.
Yeah.
If it was really that bad, you would say something.
100%.
Patrick, there's a day I haven't done it yet, but I don't know if I have it in me ever. But if the day I get pissed off enough, I'm gonna email the boards, like mass email. Be like, I'm thinking about sleeping with my client. Is that a good idea? Question. And I know they're all gonna email me back like that is not okay. Oh, so we're interpreting law today.
Sure.
I have a question.
That's really funny because I often joke that like I think the board in my mind visually is like these mole people that live in like a windowless basement and every file is in like a cardboard box, and like you email them and they can't interpret it, they can't respond appropriately, and then they send out these like mass email blasts to like scare you though. But then when you speak to them via email or phone call, you're like, is that the dumbest fucking person I've ever spoken to in my life? How do they have this position of authority and power? And why are we so afraid of like whatever sentence they're going to pass? Because in reality, they don't even know what they're talking about. They can't even organize like basic phone calls when you're trying to route to the right person. So like,
yeah, the more exposure I've had to them, the more I'm like, I don't even know what the hell I was scared of, because like you have to show like pure gross negligence. Like there's hard no's in there, like you can't sleep with your clients, you can't be high on drugs when you're doing therapy, like you can't, be sharing confidential information. Hard no's, like you do this, your license is gone, like it's not a thing. But when it comes to practice, I've literally had boards email me back and say, we don't monitor the efficacy of practice. I was like, you all really emailed that back to me.
Yep.
You don't monitor what do you do?
But it's about money, right? Like it's about money.
Yeah.
Like licensing fees, the process of keeping something legally attached to the business infrastructure. It's more about like the business infrastructure than anything else. Like,
yeah.
And I think it's just a joke that we as helpers feel such an overwhelming sense of dread about like, okay, I've got to keep my license intact from the board. I've got to make sure that other therapists don't attack me online. I've got to not speak my mind about how I think healing work works, because then I'm going to all of a sudden ostracize myself. I am worried about ethical complaints. I'm worried about, I still have people who come up to me and say like, do you let your therapist at your group practice dress however they want? And I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't care. I don't want them to wear like Bud Light t-shirts, and I certainly don't care any other way. So you let
Yeah.
them show their tattoos. Yes. Does that have any sort of influence on the work that they're doing? In reality, with the clients we work with, it's probably going to build more rapport than not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always about I tell therapists, like the more you can show up whole, the more you can help a client get there
Yeah,
too. And I
100%.
think this system has just been built for us to break into a million pieces. And I think therapists have gotten the wrong idea. It's like, we have to show up, for our clients doesn't mean that we have to shape shift who we are depending on what version of a client is in front of us. Like
Right.
that's not what that means. It's like we can hold everything of who we are, still stay whole and see the types of clients we work best with. Like I feel like we have to I feel like for most people it's like takes them 10 years to learn that you can choose who you want to work with. The
Yep.
problem is most people, go through the hazing of community mental health. You don't get a choice,
Nope.
right? So it's like you think that something's wrong with you, when in fact the system was never built to support true innovative healers. Like it just wasn't built for that.
Yeah.
So like, we think something's wrong with us, and then we have to go through this whole loop before we, find ourselves again, and then here we are. And it's just like, we don't need to keep doing this.
No, we don't. And I think you're seeing more and more therapists, though, who are aligning with that viewpoint and who are probably going to be more in our realms of thought process in terms of how we think you can show up. And I think I see more authenticity online. I think I see more therapists trying to do more integration. And that's because of people like yourself and other people out there who are like, hey, here's how we can do this. Here's what this can look like.
Yeah.
So I do think there is some light at the end of the tunnel when I think about it in reality. I mean, I employ 25 people and I like to think they're all doing things very differently than my experience. And I know that when I used to do coaching, one thing that was very important in our first week, we would like start making lists and columns of like column A, here are the clients and experiences and traits that show up that light me up. The clock goes so quickly I don't even look at it. Column B, clients that I know and struggles that I feel very confident with, but I'm not that excited about, but I can do it. I feel competent. Client or column C, things that I absolutely do not want to work with or people I do not want to work with. And they would have so much shame around that column. But
Mhm.
column A and C are equally important to me. Column C is maybe even more important than column A. And I think that we shame the shit out of ourselves for saying, like, I don't enjoy working with clients who struggle with ABC or present in this way. And it's just this like profession that has created such a layer of complex shame dynamic that it's almost impossible to separate self from profession.
Yeah. And like I feel like a lot of therapists that I work with, I know this is definitely right for me. It's like my own personal story has driven me to be the best fit for certain clients, right? Like in my private practice, I work with anxious, codependent adults. Hello, my
Yep.
whole life for like 30 years. Like,
Sure.
and then, in my coaching business, I work with unconventional therapists that are looking how to, ethically integrate these more non-traditional modalities without losing sense of self. Like, hello, also me. And I think we've been told to just kind of strip ourselves from like who we are when we become a therapist, that actually the juice is actually in who you are. So it's like
Yep.
okay to bring that in. And it's like they're just waiting for permission.
Yes.
And it's like it's so sad. Like when I see, like I have consult calls all the time. Like I have someone today, I was even reading their little intake, and it was like, I'm in this area of the Bible Belt, and I know that if I start promoting myself like this, I'm going to get attacked, and maybe no one's going to want to see me. And I'm like, I already know what I'm going to say on this call with this person.
Sure.
There's someone dying for you to take up space.
Yep. Yep.
I'm telling you that the minute you own it, you give other people permission to own it too. They are going to gravitate towards you. But it's scary as hell. It was scary for me. I
For
mean, I
sure.
was quiet. No one knew who the hell I was for years. Now I got a whole movement because I was just finally like, I'm not being quiet anymore.
Mhm.
Like I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think some of the things you said, I say on here all the time, our niches are versions of ourselves. I believe that wholeheartedly. I
Yeah.
think that evolves over time as we evolve over time.
Yeah.
And I also think going to what you're saying about like that therapist coaching call later, back in the day, I was building my website for my group practice, and on my solo website, I curse all over it. we have some line on the homepage. It's like, no head nodding. How does it make you feel? Questions here. Getting started with therapy is fucking hard. And, honoring the vulnerability. And my web designer was like, if you say this, you're going to turn off more conservative clients. And I was like, good.
Great. Get
Like,
the fuck out.
like we don't need to be for everybody. We can attract and repel based on how we show up. And that means it's going to feel more aligned. And
Yeah.
that's okay. And those clients will go elsewhere and find the right fit. And that also means that the clients who need to find us will find us because they relate to what we're saying. And I
Agree.
think it's important just as therapists to have that alignment, because otherwise, that's where I think I see more of the imposter syndrome, self-doubt come in, is when the fit doesn't feel aligned and you keep missing in session. And it's
Yep.
like, what is happening? And you start to question sense of self of like, it must be me. I must be a terrible therapist or a terrible private practice owner. And in reality, it's like 9 times out of 10 is probably just really not a good fit.
Yeah, it's not a good fit, or you're not in the right system structure, or you're listening to the wrong things.
Yeah.
Like, one thing I wanted to just say right now is, especially right now with what's going on in the world, um, there's a huge collective fear with the changes, with the laws, with all the therapists, with the big beautiful bill, if you
Yeah.
want to call it that, whatever. So that fear, like, I hate it. Like, it happens every, I don't know, 11, 12, 14 months, whatever. Like, there's this new thing that therapists get collectively so scared about.
Yep.
And it's like we light up like wildfires in California. And I just want to remind everyone, like, we don't have to do this to each other. And it's like really like, it's like, it's like everywhere. And I'm like, okay, now we all feel really, really small,
Yep.
right? Everyone's like rigid and paralyzed. And I'm just like, okay, this doesn't have to happen. And now it's the part that's really driving me crazy is boards, congressmen's, and MASW, because I'm getting all of these hits, right? Of let's rally together. And my question is, where the fuck were y'all? Where have y'all been this whole time? And I want to tell therapists, like, if you're getting outreach to collab, set a standard before you even invest in that shit. Like, I want to change the way you guys are opening communication with us. Like, you want us to support you, support us. Like,
Yep.
stop acting like you're not in a position of power, because people need you, obviously.
Without a doubt.
Like,
100%.
this is driving me nuts.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I 100% agree with that. And I think that's absolutely right. When we see these things happen, 12 to 14 months, like you said, it's like there's collective outrage and then silence immediately after it gets forgotten about, move on to the next thing.
Back in the box. Oh, like,
Yeah.
okay, we shut them up. And then the minute we start kind of getting our movement forward, it's like we gotta shut them down again. Like, let's do
Yep.
a thing. Shut them down.
Yeah. The next thing will be like, oh, telehealth's going to get ended across the country for insurance purposes. And that will be collective outrage for good reason. But there will be no unified like movement or advocacy attempt, because that is also a problem with this field, is that we are so fragmented.
Yep.
Based on licensure types, different states doing different things. And that's a conversation for another day. But that, in my opinion, is done quite intentionally. And it's really hard to have any collective unity in that regard when everyone's doing things very, very, very differently.
Hence the cult mentality. It's like, it's what it is. It's like, geez.
Yep. Well, I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. I think people like yourself, people like myself, people who are doing things differently, who are modeling and leading and just showcasing that you don't have to do therapy one way, is super important. So for all of you listening, I think you have to really dig deep and kind of step back and say, what kind of therapist do I want to be and why? And I think values are everything. And I think having your why and aligning with your values, really understanding why did you get in this profession in the first place. So I really appreciate you and what you're showing up and creating, especially just as you're creating more and more therapists who understand that you can integrate both clinical and energy work together, and how this is really something that needs to be looked at more holistically without fear.
Yes, absolutely.
As we're getting ready to wrap up, do you have anything you want to share? And we will link it in the show notes for everyone listening so that you have access to everything that Dr. Vitolo is about to say.
Yeah. So you're all welcome to join. I have a free Facebook group. I do a lot of free trainings and like free consultation support group. in there monthly. It's called Black Sheep Therapists, Embracing Unconventional Practices in Mental Health. So feel free to join. My IG is at the _Black Sheep _therapist. I am on TikTok at the Black Sheep Therapist. I have a book coming out at the beginning of the year. Title, still figuring it out, at least the subtitle, but it's called The Black Sheep Therapist, but still figuring out the subtitle. It's like my big fuck you book. And I'm really excited about it.
Love that.
Huh?
Sign me up for that for sure.
Oh yeah. I think it's coming out around February. So I'm super excited for that. And you can go to my website, 𝘁𝗸𝗄𝘆𝘀.com. It will have links to my CE portal, the Facebook group, all the things. Come hang out with us and join the collective.
We will have all of that in the show notes for all of you, so you all have easy access to everything Dr. Vitolo just said. I also think I'll be going into her Facebook group in a couple of months to have a conversation in there as well. So we'll release this simultaneously, and I'm just kind of like trying to do mental math right now to figure out when that will be, but it will come out in a couple of weeks. So to everyone listening to the All Things Private Practice podcast, new episodes are out every single Saturday on major platforms and YouTube. If you haven't already, make sure to sign up for our summit that's happening in Portland, Maine, September 1st to the 3rd. Doubt yourself, do it anyway, and we'll see you next week.